We're the High Impact Reading Challenge, and this month's book is Think Like a Monk. I think we were pretty excited about this book, and so I'm excited to hear what everybody thought. I have to move your faces, though, to get to my next slide. So the High Impact Reading Challenge, I just said today's book is Think Like a Monk. Our agenda, we do a quick intros. I think our group's small enough that we can do that quick intro, and then we do a round robin with open comments and then talk about what's next. I just want to remind everybody that we are recorded, so mind your P's and Q's. If something happens during the recording where you're like, oh, I divulged something about work or my personal life that you're not comfortable with, just reach out to Laura or myself and we'll make sure that that piece gets edited out. We want everyone to feel pretty comfortable about giving their opinions, but if there's regrets, let us know. And ultimately our goal is to have some fun and some open discussion with the group. So our roundtable questions are overall helpfulness, relevance to your audience, ability to put into action, and compared to similar books. Favorite quote or point made, and what did you like least about it? And then ultimately a thumbs up or down. This is just to give some framework for some people who might not know what the group's about or what we usually talk about. Please feel free to bring anything beyond that suggested questions to the group. Those are some of our best conversations. It's just some of those reflective points. So High Impact Reading Challenge. Laura does a lot of, oh, there's the dog barking. Laura does a ton of work along with her admin to make sure that this gets updated monthly and that we actually have this space to come together. We have a couple membership levels. Obviously, we want people to join, and you're welcome to join for free. We have a supporter level, which is our most popular, and then a sponsor level. And we highlight those supporters and sponsors in the next slide. So I have to move your faces again. Look at this. I'm one of those sponsors, Tanya Eastman. I just love working with Tanya, and she's great with reading. She does have a couple workshops these couple months that landed on our Impact Reading Challenge. So she's sorry when she has to miss it. We have Robin McKenney and Jody Hatch, Barb Stone, which is from Build Your Path. Jerry Nolan is on our call right now, so thank you, Nolan and Maloney. And then we've got some great supporters with Barry Peranto, Eric Eveland is on today, Heather Miller, and Chris Hurt. So we appreciate that, but why are you supporting this group? One of the things Laura and I talked about is we just want to encourage participation. So part of that is what we're trying to do is just cover the cost of the group, but also with getting our group filled up with more people that we love to talk to. So we really want to encourage you all to invite more people, get them involved, but really the goal is not for us to benefit. It's really for us to live within our mission of helping first-time publishers and have a help literacy foundation. So that extra over the cost of just running the group is going to go to somebody that might not have the funds but wants to do a workbook or has a book that they're excited to share with the world but might need some encouragement and some support with some money. So that's really our goal with having the different levels of membership. So the next book is going to be The Dignity Doctrine, Rational Relations in an Irrational World, easy for me to say. So it looks like Mark Coleman might be joining us. Is this true, Laura? Oh, she's going to try.
Sorry, I had to admit people right when you said that. So it was like mute or admit. Hold on.
Admit all the way.
Yes, Mark Coleman is a local author here in Syracuse, and this is his third book. We could talk more about it at the end, but yeah, he plans on joining us for next month's call.
That is exciting. So we need as many people as possible to, like we usually say, you can join without reading the book. Let's all read the book if Mark's coming. So I will challenge everyone. I don't see this book on Audible, but I was able to order it off Amazon, and it looks like there's a Kindle version as well.
Yep.
So with that, I will stop share. I do think with a smaller group, we could go through pretty quick introductions. My name's Lisa Sears. I lead and own a couple businesses, with coaching and consulting. So try to help a lot of people, but some of my key clients are financial service advisors like Jerry Nolan, as well as some farmers too. They seem to really pop up, and I did some farm planning in the past, and so really helping with some leadership development and some strategic planning. With that, I'll have Laura go next, and then she can choose from there.
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks for leading today. I am a business owner, social entrepreneur. I don't know, this evolves. This is why another reason why we like to do this when we can, to practice introducing ourselves. But right now I have 4 companies. The latest is a media production. So I'm adding executive producer to my list of titles. And then there are 2 interns starting to help with the publishing company that this book club is housed under in June. So super excited to see what they might help us with, including putting some book lists onto the website. So stay tuned for that stuff, but glad to have everyone here and love this book club. And I will pass it to Kim. Actually, sorry, Kim, I'm going to take that back and have Brian go, because it's been so long since he joined us. So Brian, I'd love for you to say hello.
Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Brian Volaton. Let me make sure I spell my name right. I can't type. I was like confused typing it down. I'm not sure. I am a business owner as well. But what I do, I am a accountability coach for mainly creative entrepreneurs. And what that means is through the means of movement and mindfulness and creativity, I help them get unstuck and on their way towards their goals. So I'm super excited about this conversation today, and excited about meeting the rest of you guys.
Great, thanks, Brian. How about you, Kim?
Yep. So my name is Kim Tapley. I work in the environmental regulatory field here in Florida, and I absolutely love this group. And even if you don't get to read the books, it's an excellent, excellent conversation that we have every month. And so with that, I will hand it over to Barry.
Hi, sorry I was late, by the way. I just got
No
off a
worries.
call. I'm just kidding, I was eating. No. So my name is Barry Prianto, and I have been part of this book club for just 2021, which is really fun to be a part of the group and hear everyone's experiences. I currently work at CAFL Insurance Resources. So we're a brokerage agency in Rochester, New York. So unlike the 3 previously, I'm not a business owner, but it is an ESOP. So technically I am. So I'll just put that out there, go ESOPs. So yeah, I will send it on to Eric.
Hello,
my
everybody.
Business partner.
My name's Eric Eefland. I work with Barry, and I work with CAFL Insurance Resources. I support financial advisors with their protection planning solutions for their clients, primarily life insurance, disability, long-term care planning. I think that's it. That's what I do for a living. That pays the bills. I'll go ahead and call. Wait, I don't know who's left.
We've got Jerry, Nicole, and Jody.
Jerry.
Unmute. Sorry. Hi, everybody. I'm Jerry Nolan. I'm one of these financial advisors that everybody helps. And I work, in finance, helping people in businesses for, 27 years or so. And my business has changed so much over the past couple of years that I feel like I'm more of a, generational puzzle solver. I don't know. It's just been super fun and interesting and feeling like really awesome. And I love this. I rarely get all the way through the books, but I eventually do. And listening to my side is my super awesome new office staff administrator here. Caitlin over there listens silently, so she may be joining us in the future. And I'm just really happy to be here, and I'm super excited to talk about this book. And Jody, you go.
I know Jody's, oh, there she is.
Oh, sorry. I was chewing. I was eating. Hi, my name is Jody Hatch. I am in the sunshine, upstate New York. I also own my own business, and I do a lot of coaching and consulting for agricultural businesses in development. So that's where I'm at. Who's left?
Nicole is.
Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole Simmons. I also live in Syracuse, New York, where I was hot yesterday and now I'm freezing and I have a blanket on and pants. So I'm resetting about that. I own Relationship Matters, LLC, which I started a few years ago after I left my salary job so that I could teach, train, mentor people in the Nurtured Heart approach full time, because it has changed my life in ways that we don't have time to go into now. And so I'm very passionate about sharing this with parents, teachers, and professionals who want to learn a new way to approach relationships in their life. And I am very blessed to be part of this book club. I wish Tanya was here so I could thank her yet again. Because I am so inspired by this group. I'm inspired by these books, and I'm just glad to be here.
Well, that was a great way to end the introduction section. Nicole, we're glad to have you.
Thanks.
So our book today was Think Like a Monk. Did anyone want to kick off our discussion?
I'll go. I don't like a lull. So I had kind of mixed feelings about the book. I felt like a lot of the things that he talked about were like kind of common sense, like you need to breathe, meditate, like when you're feeling angry, these are the steps to take. I found some of the like practices or exercises helpful, but I think in terms of like I think it was hard at times to get through some of the chapters, because I think that it was I found myself saying like, yeah, I know a lot. I think some of the takeaways that I had were kind of the when I'm feeling that judgment towards something else that's happened, is it some of my own insecurities that are coming out? And so I think I've been asking myself that maybe a little bit more and trying to get out of my own headspace about it, why I'm identifying why I may be judging XYZ and taking a different approach to it. Outside of that, I think I would give it a like a 35%. Like not my favorite, but I did find some of the exercises probably the most helpful parts of it. Starting off on a really good note, really happy, enthusiastic note. Sorry, Lisa.
That's all right, that's the discussion. That's what we're here for, Barry.
At least I read it. There's that.
Good job.
When I was on, I didn't, yeah. So anyone else want to go?
Jody?
I'm having trouble with technology today. So I'm gonna kind of second what you said. That is how far I got in the book. And for me, to not finish the book, I'm on page 76 and I was like, this is just not resonating with me right now. And I don't really know why. It's all very good content. There was stuff, but I was looking back the other day and I was like, I didn't write in this book at all. And that is very like not, I usually have like things scripted and notes. So I don't know if I just wasn't in the mood or it just didn't resonate with me right now. It's very good content. There's a lot of stuff that you can apply and use, but I just didn't, I didn't finish it. So it'll be on my come back to list and try it again, probably this summer, but I just didn't get into it this time. Sorry.
Well, I think it's because we've been reading all these other books that do a deep dive into other concepts, and this book is more on the surface for the people who haven't read these deep dive leadership books that we have. I felt the same way. I did a dog ear some pages and put little pencil marks next to some because I liked the way that he would phrase the concepts. And I'm always looking for different ways to phrase different concepts to teach other people. So I liked the book in that aspect. I think I read it too fast, probably. I was just trying to get through it. It was a lot of information. It was like 300 pages, I think, and very small print and less than double space. So it was difficult from that aspect for me because I'm so busy all the time. But I just will tell you guys just one quick thing is I have done work at a meditation center here in Tampa, environmental work. They were expanding their facility. And this was years and years ago when I went out there, and the monks are all dressed, with their robes and everything. And I park my work truck and I start asking everybody, where am I supposed to go? I'm supposed to have this on-site meeting. Nobody talked to me. Nobody would say anything. They would just look and smile. Eventually, I wandered around and the contractor came, who was not a monk. And he said, oh yeah, they just started their 30 days of silence. So they're not allowed to talk to anybody. And here I was just wandering around in the wetlands trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. But I like this book just to explain what goes on with the monks and how they're taught and that sort of thing, because I've been to this meditation center a number of times over the years, and each time I was like, why are they doing that? What is this custom, and so I enjoyed the book from that aspect as well.
I might say that maybe the reason it didn't resonate with me right now is the fact that there was a lot of instruction to be quiet and to rest. And I don't really like that very much. It makes me, and probably, which means I need to do it a lot more. So I was like, I'm just not in the mood for that. I can't handle that. I want like an action step list. I'm having a hard time just sitting and being, and I'll come back to being later, but right now I need to be busy. So that might be part of the reason, that it's a different approach.
Can I go next?
Sure.
Because I like to go with the flow, and I feel completely opposite of everybody else.
Good.
So I think that a lot of it, and actually Caitlin just said something very similar to this, I think a lot of it has to do with the place that you are in your life. And I will admit I did not finish it. So I started reading it, but before that I was listening to some of his podcasts before I started reading the book. And the one with him and Will Smith, I just loved it. And there were certain things that just really resonated with me. Just the goodness and the positivity and the foundation of it all. But so then I started reading, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, I'm never going to get through this in time. And I also, did anybody do it on Audible? Did anybody listen to his voice? Okay, I love his voice. Indian English. It was pretty cool. So I started listening to it, and then I was listening to it and reading it. And I think so about almost 3 years ago, I started to kind of just change my whole life. Not change my whole life, but add in, I don't know, some super level of self-development with when I read The Miracle Morning. And I may have talked about this with you guys, but a lot of the things that practice does are the type of things that Jay talks about it at one time or another. And so for me, it addresses, and Lisa, you might know what I'm talking about, but when he talks so much about, and I know it's surface, but still it just was really helpful. The, single tasking and, taking one thing and going deep instead of taking 100 things and doing a little, which is what so many of us try to do when you're trying to, make everything better. And there were a couple of my favorite quotes, but I can't really think of any of them, but there was like, I don't have a lot of people that like going back, 100 years or maybe 62, that I've ever not, that have a bad relationship with. But I have had a few where it just left with something unsettled. And so his forgiveness piece, I liked that. I didn't do the activity yet, but I'm going to. I really like that. And then the whole negativity thing. I sometimes when I'm forced into a situation, I realize that I am so freaking blessed to be able to pick most of the people that I spend most of my life with, because I don't spend a lot of time with negative people. And I'm really, really, really grateful for that. And so the idea of just even making myself more positive, because everybody, and then the other thing was the idea of, obviously we are lifelong students. Like you're never gonna master it. We're human beings. And so, when you think, oh crap, I'm backwards. I don't know. It did resonate tremendously with me. I am going to definitely do the activities and finish the reading and the Audible. And that's most of it. You ready?
I'll jump in. Yeah, so I'm kind of with the first part of the group, that it was, so I liked the style of writing. I like how he, the way that I envisioned his voice and stuff. I didn't listen to the podcast, right? So, but I did like his style of writing. I thought it was pretty attractive, and it was definitely entertaining to read. But I felt as though I was pseudo bored with the concepts. Like it was kind of like, oh yeah, duh, I get that. And I kind of felt that way. Although I did like a couple of things he said, because he has different views on things. And the one part was he was talking about how he was doing a walk with a senior monk, and the senior monk was kind of pointing out some of the different people that are also there. And he's like, well, this guy right here can recite any of these scriptures to you because he has them memorized. And then he says that he also would like to be able to do that. And he'd be interested. And he's like, are you interested in being able to do it? Or are you interested in the journey to get you to be able to do that? And I thought that was kind of interesting, right? Because so often we have these goals in mind of like, I just want to be here, right? I want to be here, but you don't appreciate the journey, the path that it took to get to where you are, because you're just so focused on the end. Which brings me to that other part is, the being aware, which I thought was kind of cool, where they walked down the same path every single day for whatever it was, like 30 days or something like that. It was a short path. And the teacher said, every time you walk down this path, I need you to look and identify something that you've never seen before and really truly look at it and appreciate it. And I thought that was kind of cool, to really just take a breath and take a look around and appreciate your surroundings. Because I find myself not doing that far too often. And I think it's because I don't do that. Like, for example, when you start getting older, right? You're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, you're in your 50s. What do you hear? People saying, wow, it feels like just yesterday I was in my 20s, and now all of a sudden snap my fingers and I'm 50 or I'm 60 or whatever that is. And I think that part of that is attributed to the fact that you maybe have taken for granted life, right? You're not taking a second to appreciate something and take a moment to do that, because everything kind of becomes mundane and boring. And what do you do when you're feeling mundane and boring, right? You just kind of skip through it, and the memory is lost and there's nothing there. It's just gray matter. It's just the past and it's gone. Whereas if you really did take a second to take a look at the little stone that's in the path, and you really take a look at it and describe it in your head and re-describe it, and it becomes now a new memory, something that you've built, and now it helps maybe build out that time. So I did have some great takeaways from it, but overall, I was with you guys that it was, that it could have been a little bit more in depth. especially considering some of the books that we have read up to this point.
So
Amen.
Brian does some meditation and mindfulness activities. So I would love to hear what you thought, Brian.
I do some meditation and mindfulness things, and listening to everyone talk, there are those bits, and part of it is very not really surface level, but introductory, the whole book. And it is that way because of the fact that a lot of the concepts are really heavy to get into because they're so vague a lot of the times, right? So it's put in this position where they can kind of just be digestible, even though this book is an enormous book. And even listening to it, it took me, I don't know, the whole month, right? Just to listen to the book. But I'm a big fan of Jay Shetty because of his story. But listening to you guys talk, specifically Eric, I was on a walk yesterday and I got to my friend's house, and I live literally, I'm pointing because the window's right here, literally a block from the water. So I walked to the water and then I walked down like a half a mile or a mile down the street. And my friend's out there in his yard, and he lives in this house where it's owned by the city. So, and it's a historical home, so he doesn't have to, like, he barely pays rent for it. His rent's like super low. He gets to maintain the whole place. All he has to do is he's a carpenter, so he can fix things and kind of just do what he wants to do. And his backyard is literally looking at the Gulf, right? And we're sitting there and we're talking. He's sanding this big piece of wood, talking about he wanted to donate this piece of wood to the city for the Chamber of Commerce. But then all this political stuff came in and they couldn't accept it because they would have had to vote it and get bids and blah, blah, blah. But he was working on this to donate this to them. And as he's talking, he's like, man, I don't really have anything in life. And I was standing there like looking around, and he's at 9 o'clock in the morning sanding a piece of wood, getting ready to donate it to a group of people. His backyard is literally the beach. He hardly pays rent in this place. People have given him things from all over the world. He's been all over the world, and he's like, I have nothing. And I was like, because you have everything, bro, right? Really, right? And his location is literally where people come spend thousands of dollars to just be in this place for a week. And he lives here, right? And so, like, that's the whole point of the whole book. When we talk about mindfulness and we talk about just being in the present, a lot of the times we get caught up in our heads and we forget what the present actually feels like. And we think the current moment is, sometimes we take this current moment as a bunch of time, right? So like right here in this moment can mean 5 hours total, but it really is like right here in this moment. And he was overlooking the fact that in that moment, while other people were going to work, because there's a busy highway right there next to him, he was able to sit there and build a table, right? And like that's all he needed to do at this point. So my takeaway from the book was it long? Probably. Was it kind of slow? Yes, absolutely. But then the whole point of, service is in there, and the whole point of just being aware of your surroundings and being able to understand what it really means to be aware of the current moment is what's important, is the biggest takeaway from the book. So we get agitated a lot of times when people are like, sit down and be quiet and think to yourself. It pisses people off a lot of times because they're like, we got shit to do, we have things to do, and I don't have 20 minutes to sit here, right? But when you look at all of the time that you're actually beating your head against the wall or trying to figure out problems, every one of those minutes are times where you can just say, let me just step back and at least pay attention to the busy work that I am doing in this moment. And I don't really have to take 20 minutes per se to meditate. I could just literally step back from the work that I'm doing and actually make sure that every word I put down on this paper or every word I key into my keyboard that I'm actually consciously thinking about versus responding to because it's a part of my job function. So for me, that was a takeaway.
Oh, Brian. I've thought about you a lot this month. Brian and I got on a call. I was in the airport. I had started to read this book. This book, I'm going to jump in here because I think I'm all over. I tend to fall in love with people and books and everything, right? So my filter is not great, I will admit.
Okay.
I like most things, right? But this book made me crave a stripped down life like you would not believe. Like it made me, so a lot of the concepts in this book, so I wrote like each chapter, you know me, I'm like strategic with everything. So I wrote each chapter, and what I realized was that I've done so much of this work because of my work in positive psychology. Like savor it. I wrote down each chapter and then gave it an actual like, what is the lesson I learned in positive psychology, which I love positive psychology because it's this, like this book is so big picture. It's like a 101 in positive psychology. I needed the science stuff. I needed the like, okay, I understand negativity bias, but what do I do about it? How do I unravel that? So I think this book made me really reflect on the work that I've done over the past 3 years to be kinder to myself. Like it's such a book about compassion. So I really loved that component of it. But Brian and I got on a Zoom with Brian in an airport, and he and I, we talk about our businesses, we share ideas, we celebrate together. And sometimes I help him, sometimes he helps me. It was one of those, he helped me big time because I'm reading this stinking book and he's like, what do you do to like transition between, you know, one coaching call to another. And it got me thinking about what a stripped down life would be to me. And he made me in the airport. I happily did it. We did some motions, right? Yeah, I'm like in an airport restaurant up in the air on a Zoom.
Pictures where it didn't happen.
Pictures there didn't happen. I should have videotaped it. But it got me thinking, like what Eric's talking about. Like, I love what I do. I help so many people, but I'm missing the pebbles. I'm missing the celebration because I'm not creating space to breathe and be present and be like, I know I've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm building a barn, all this stuff, right? But it just reminded me that there has to be some point in my life that things change and I become more present and I do these things. Like it was kind of this book for me. I get like, it was like, I wrote down stuff. I was like, yep, already know that. Yep, already know that. Right. Yep, already know that. But it was also like a call to action for me big time. Like, okay, quit talking about it and start doing it. You can't keep saying in the next 2 weeks, it's going to get better. Yeah. So for me, it was kind of this wake up call where I need to really do the breathing, enjoy the moment, maybe ultimately help less people so that I can help myself. Have a little bit more of a stripped down life like a monk.
And I think a lot of the stuff we do know, right? And that is another point of the book too, is that we're already kind of evaluating ourselves in this space. And part of that, taking the time, like you can literally sit in your house right now and evaluate where you are, right? Judith just, Jared just took a drink of her water, like inside of that metal container. Like, what does the water taste like, right? Because it changes inside of the container, but you're on this call, you're doing something else. You just took a sip of water. And Jody's sitting next to a window, like what does the warmth of the window feel like? And it's really just taking that time to feel what that is. And there's nothing really to do with it other than say, okay, right? And that's all fitting into this meditative space and being awareness space. And just looking for moments that you can just show up and just say, I got it. That's the whole point. There's nothing to really do with it. There's nothing you can take from what is the sunlight or the feeling of the warmth coming through the window. There's nothing to really do with it other than to say, here it is. And I'm acknowledging it because it's actually happening right now, because it may change in 15 minutes, right? And it's going to be a different type of emotion, feeling, scenario. So in the airport doing Qigong with Lisa was one of those situations of just being able to just come into that moment and understand just how to be with yourself in that moment and figure out how to play in your dharma, as he's talked about, and your purpose. Because it looks like everybody's already in their purpose. Everybody's doing things that they like, I think. Everybody on this call that I know anyway are doing things that they like. And it's just imagining how to do them in a way that is going to make you happy and help other people.
Well, and I think, Brian, what you are saying is exactly a lot of what I was feeling and maybe didn't communicate as well, is that, you know, I forever doing 3 or 4 things at once. I know it's not smart. I know it's not efficient. I know it's habit. It's, you know, and I'm consciously trying to learn to do one thing and enjoy and focus on doing it. But when you said, you know, she drank her water, I'm like, absolutely. And I did 2 other things that I never even, you know, thought about. And so I think that was, it just, you know, really hit home is something that has been increasingly important to me, to literally enjoy every moment of the journey and pay attention to it and acknowledge it, instead of making it a chore because there's 4 more at the same time.
Yeah.
That part of, like, when he talked about like monks think first and then talk second, kind of like, for me, that was like, I'm getting more purposeful in what I'm sharing too. So I'm trying not to be such an extrovert and like narrating everything, but I'm also trying to like create space to share gratitude with the people around me that I, you know, they know it, I know it, but it's like, stop for a minute. I so appreciate this moment. Thank you for giving this to me. Like is I think things we think about, but I don't know that we always communicate them. And I've caught myself since reading this book doing that much more often. Like really sharing. I had 3 amazing days in Pennsylvania, which, I mean, you guys know I travel a lot. So I'm like going. And those people made me stop a little. And I thanked all of them. Like, it was nice to share a meal with some people, and there was no agenda. We laughed and like came together and shared things. And I told them, like, this really feels good for me. Thank you for creating this space. The book's like motivated to shift a little bit of like, be quiet when you need to, and then be loud when you need to too. Nicole.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be the first like double thumbs up. I'll be the opposite of most of the group today. Oh my gosh, I freaking love the book. And I can't remember who said it, might have been Kim. Maybe it's just about where everybody's at when they're reading it. You know, the timing's got to be right. And actually my son's school started a book study also like a month ago. And it was really important to me. So I joined it and I'm like, holy crap, I'm trying to read 2 freaking books at the same time. This is crazy. Thankfully, they canceled it. And so I was like rushing to finish this book in like, I don't even know, it was like 7 days. And of course it's freaking 382 pages long. And I'm like, oh my God. So I was doing like crash course here. I did finish it and I loved it. I have highlights and post-it notes and dog ears like crazy.
Jody is so jealous right now.
Oh my gosh.
She loves that.
But you know what? I love, Jody, that you said that you didn't finish it, but it might be something that you come back to. You could have just said, oh my God, total thumbs down, I'm throwing it in the trash. I love that, Barry, it didn't resonate with you and you finished it. I think that says a lot about your just your determination and your
competitiveness. It's competitiveness.
Like, your what?
It's competitiveness. It's
there you go. It's your competitiveness. Like, I got to finish it. I got to finish it. I do think a lot of the concepts were basic and yet not so much if you actually apply them to your life, because I thought, oh my God, if I literally applied this entire book to my life, it would take me years. Like there's a lot. But some of it I think was reminders, like, oh, you know, like you all have already said about being in the present moment. We've heard that a gajillion times. And yet, I think Eric pointed out the story about going on the same path every day and looking for something new. I started doing that on my morning walk with my 13-year-old daughter. And I said, hey, let's try to find something that we haven't noticed before. And we've been doing that for days now. And she's like, oh, look at that bush. I never noticed that bush. Oh, look at that. And look, and it's really, I don't know, it's invigorated our morning walk. The single tasking, oh my gosh, what did he said, oh, excuse me, sorry. If I think about business when I'm brushing my teeth or in the shower, it doesn't feel nourishing and energizing, and I don't take care with my gums. When you're brushing, just brush. When you're showering, just shower. And I'm like, oh, how many thousands of things do I think about when I'm brushing my teeth and not actually paying attention? And when I'm in the shower, I'm absolutely thinking about my list for the day. I go through my skin. So I've been trying to just like slow down and appreciate moment to moment. Part of the Nurtured Heart approach has a concept called the reset, and my kids know it very well. So my daughter will readily reset me to present moment when she sees me start kind of spinning forward about tomorrow's dinner and next week's plan. She'll be like, Mom, I need you to reset to present moment. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Isn't that the worst when your kids actually throw that great stuff back at you?
It is the best.
The best ever. You're like, oh, you got me again.
I'm like, thank you for getting me back online, because I always want to be online. And I'll say one of my favorite quotes is, love is in the small things. We remember that we never know what someone is going through, so we treat them with the gentleness you would give someone who is in pain, with the generosity you would give someone who is hungry, with the compassion you would give someone who is misunderstood. And that just really resonated with me. I don't know. I loved the book. I thought it was, I guess, exactly what I needed to read. I don't know. There's a lot to put into practice, but I've already started with some little things, and I'm going to try more mindful meditation in the morning and night. And I'm just grateful. Whoever picked this book, I loved it. So thanks.
Well, we are in the high impact rating challenge. So, I mean, some of it, like whether you like things or not, they still have impact on you, right? And like, this is a kind of repetitive for me, and wholly still like huge impact where I'm shifting. So it's all interesting and good.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Nicole.
Thank you.
Am I the only one left?
You are, Laura. Now we're in trouble.
Well, I loved this book.
Oh my gosh!
I will say I got a little bit bored in the second half of it. The second half got a little boring to me because I felt like it was just adding on, like, now let's talk about family. Now let's talk about another. I could have done with half the book and I'd been happy with it, finished. But the curse of listening to audiobooks from the library is that the library takes them back from me, including my notes. So I still have notes on this book, but I can't access them right now. There were some quotes that I did take notes on or bookmark. But I loved it because of, one, like Kim said, the behind the scenes of a monk's life. I loved that. It was so interesting to me to hear what the initiation looks like and what they're doing and how they interact with each other behind the scenes. Like, they're being competitive, and then their sensei, whatever they would call the guy, going, okay, children, stop that, or, you know, imparting his wisdom in a role model fashion. He did not ever tell them what to do. He just would give them something or role. So for me, there's a lot of role model way stuff in here, because that's how the monks are teaching. And then when he talked about the monks who mummify themselves, I had to go research that. I was like, what the hell is this? You know, we tell ourselves we have to have all this nutrition and eat healthy and organic and whatever, but you can live for 3 years eating bark. What? I was like blown away. So there's a lot of learning stuff for me in there. And then, so the things that I have been practicing, I've kind of right place, right time, like Nicole said. I I also just read The Power of Now, and this all happened on my road trip to Florida. So I had lots of time. I read like 5 books this month or listened to. So The Power of Now and this book kind of acted together as what are you doing in the present and how are you reacting to things? I never had a better drive in my life. I laughed and enjoyed my entire, whenever I saw people acting like idiots, I laughed at them. None of it had any, so it was also the 4 agreements. None of it had anything to do with me. I'm like, well, they're just idiots all the time. You know, the story that I love that Darren Hardy also talks about, and I think I've heard it another time referenced, is the man in the boat. Like there's no one in the boat, that you're, you know, 90% of the time you're arguing with yourself. The other person either isn't there or is not even trying to offend you. So I'm always trying to remember that story. But I have been thinking of him when I'm going to bed and when I wake up in the morning, to stop, not pick up my phone first thing, practice the gratitude of like thanking the earth. I mean, I'm already, you know, these are things that I do but not do. But what I really, really loved and appreciated was the format of the book. It was everything I wanted in Big Magic that it didn't have. So he had every chapter had a specific focus and a what to do at the end. Like here's a practice, no matter how simple, something you can do. And that's what I really was wanting out of Big Magic, was like, tell me what to do with this. So I loved just the whole format of it. And there are some of the exercises I still want to go back and try to do some more. Not all of them, but there were a couple that I was like, oh, I want to try that, you know, and just see how it goes. So, and I did, as one of you talked about, I liked the way that he talked about forgiveness. From the monk's perspective. So anyway, all of that, I wish I had been able to go back and see my notes to remember what it was that I liked so much about the first half of it, but I think that pretty much sums it up.
I'm sorry that I laughed so loud. It's always a joy when Laura loves something that has the big feels in it. Like, you know, we enjoy each other's company because a lot of times we're on opposite opinions, and we enjoy that conversation and we come together in the best ways. But it's fun to see you in that space, Laura. Love it. I did, one of the things I was thinking about is I was working with somebody that was really struggling with some of their partners and being really judgmental and negative about those people. And I recommended this book and said, you're going to hate me. You're going to throw the book. You're going to like, he tends to be more on that negativity scale that is over here, that the assumptions he makes are, you know, a little bit of victim, a little bit of like negativity. And he did tell me he hated the book. And then he thanked me because he wasn't that piece. I think, Jerry, you were talking about, or someone was like, or Nicole's great quote about how we can compassionately understand that people are just different from us. They're better at some things than we are. They're not as good at others. And like, we want them to be certain things and we judge them in that way. And I think just like having somebody reset you and be like, you're not appreciating what actually these people bring to your life. You're not getting what you need from them right now, but they've got, you know, one of the people he was really negative about had a really sick mom that she didn't share with anyone. Like that stuff's going on daily. We don't know the whole picture with people. And, you know, he was thankful that it was kind of a reset on like how we're just judging people, and we can come to it a little bit more compassion. Did you have something to add, Bri? I thought you were going to say something.
I was just remembering or listening to what you were saying, and part when you talk about the compassion part and you talk about all of the things that make you feel good about the book, the reminder, I think my biggest takeaway is that it's work. It's so much work, and sometimes it's really boring work. And sometimes it's like mind-numbing work, because sometimes you're in these spaces where the only thing to figure out is why you have resistance to whatever you're challenged with, right? And sometimes we think we know what the answer is, so we operate from this position of, well, I already know what's going on, but I keep having the problem, right? And being able to keep at that problem until we realize that it's just us standing in the way and there's some resistance and that we haven't really let that go. That's probably the biggest takeaway for me, is that it's work until it was work before we were here and it's work after we're gone, right? Like that's the whole point, is that it never really stops. And I think want the work to stop. And we just want the prize for the work that we don't really want to do a lot of the time. So compassion is one thing to talk about, but it's like physically and mentally thinking about how you can be compassionate with everything that you do, even when you're talking about religion and politics and all these different things, and the ways that we clash on everything, right? And then still being able to show up and give someone that space that they need to figure their own stuff out is important. And it's boring.
I actually think that's a really great point. And maybe, you say when you read, I'll have to reread it when my mind is in the right space, I think. But when I started it, I was like, all right, this is already stuff I know. It's literally fairly simple. This is not complex. I'm like going to the complex. What's the answer? I'm like, it can't be this simple, right? I don't, not that I don't have time for it, but like, I don't want to put the energy into it if it's really that simple, because in actuality, it's really not that simple. That's why we struggle with it so much, right?
Right.
So it's like, okay, so, you could be on a diet to lose weight, and here's the plan, and it's fairly simple. You put this in your mouth and not that. But so many people struggle with that because it's hard and it's boring, right? You got to do it. You have to be consistent. You got to show up. You got to do these things and sit with yourself and say, okay, well, why did I put that in my mouth? Or, why am I not sitting with myself and just enjoying this 5-second moment of sunlight on my face, right? So it's such a combination of it being in your face simple, right? Because like, do that, sit with yourself, be quiet. But that's really complicated because there's a lot going on in our heads, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's a matter too of understanding that if you're on a diet, and your diet, what's the purpose of the diet? Is to lose weight or is to be healthy? I think if you target it more to be healthy, then you lose weight for free, right? But then understanding that sometimes the more you restrict yourself, the harder it becomes, right? Because at that point now that's suffering. And suffering is only a condition that we can control. So, but then giving yourself a break in the middle and saying, hey, you know what? For instance, myself, I like to drink beer, but I like to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Those things don't go well together, right? So I'm like, how do I make it useful? I just drink on Friday, where I don't have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, right? So I can be mindful about how I approach the things that I like to do and how they're affecting my body along the way. So you can take those things, and if you're on a diet, be on that diet Monday through Friday, and then give yourself a break if you want to eat a piece of cake like he does in the book on a Sunday. And because he knows on Monday he's going to feel like trash because that piece of cake doesn't fit into his programming or his routine of his practice throughout the rest of the week. So he has a day where he can kind of fall off the wagon for a little bit, and then he knows he can get back on. So it's kind of understanding where those tangents are, where the lines are that you can push up to before you're restricting yourself too much, or there's too much freedom to where there's no boundaries and you're just kind of like all over the place all the time.
So I know we're coming up on top of the hour, but Brian, would you mind just explaining the exercise that you took me through? Because I think it's simple, it's something we can do, and maybe we can share the video.
Okay, yeah. So part of my practice when I'm in the morning, I brush teeth, shower, the whole thing, regular things that everybody else does. But right before I meditate, I actually have a 4-step sequence that I walk through. And what that does is just kind of helps me transition from, I've been journaling in the morning, I've made my tea, and I don't want to bring that part of my morning into my meditation space. So I have a transition that I use. And it's Qigong, and there's like thousands of different movements, but I do this from a sitting position. And I can walk you guys through a couple of steps, or we can go through all 4. We can just do it twice. Does everybody agree with that? Maybe? Yes?
Let's
no?
do it.
All right, let's do it.
See what I did there?
Yeah, you did. You see? All right, so I'm here. This is the space that I meditate in. It looks way different in the morning because it's still dark. But if you sit up as straight as possible, we have our hands. We're going to put them, imagine like you're a Dragon Ball Z character. You're going to put your hands like right in front of your belly here. You can close your eyes or not, but all we're gonna do is for 1 second, we just observe ourselves in this space. And as we take a deep breath, the hands expand. And as we exhale, the hands contract. And all you're doing is just kind of mimicking the shape of your stomach as it swells and then as it contracts. Then what we're going to do is we're going to turn our hands, palms facing upwards. When we inhale, hands go up to about shoulder height. We exhale, hands down. Let's do that one more time. Now at the bottom of that breath, we're just going to put our fingertips together. We're going to inhale up, bring that ball right in front of our face. We're going to push it out in front of us, down and around, exhale. And we'll repeat that one more time. Inhale, ball up, exhale, down, around in front of you. And as we inhale, we're going to put our hands in this triangle shape. We're going to push it right out in front of us. Inhale, open up the chest. The hands are going to sweep, open up behind you. It's like you're grabbing water or you're doing a breaststroke right in front of your face here. We're going to continue that pattern one more time. And then you put that triangle right back in front of us. Now that space in between that triangle, we're going to breathe into that space through the hands and imagine it going into your heart. We're going to take one breath there. And as we exhale, we're going to invert the fingertips, pointing down, thumbs into our belly button or touching the belly button. You don't have to stick them in your belly button. That's weird. And then we're just going to exhale. And then finally, let's just take 2 breaths here. And that is the whole sequence. You can do that as many times as necessary. And I find it just helpful to transition from one big task to the next. Or sometimes you just need to pause on one thing you're actually doing and just regather yourself. And some of those techniques will just help you kind of just even yourself out, especially if you feel like you don't have enough time or you're rushed and you don't have 20 minutes to sit yourself down on the floor and do a different type of work. So.
Thank you, Brian.
You're absolutely welcome.
I appreciate you. And I love this group. And so we'll wrap it up with, I'll just say it's the next month is the Dignity Doctrine, Rational Relations in an Irrational World. The author, Mark Coleman, is going to join us. So I'm really,
Can I just say,
Sure.
that book is probably going to be a little different than what we've been reading because it's not personal development and leadership. So I'm interested to see what people think. But like I said, Mark Coleman is an exceptional human being. And I think he will be really great to have on the call and talk more about it. So just know that it might be a little bit different than what we've been reading, but I think that's a good thing. We need to switch things up every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, also appreciate everyone being here. As Jay Shetty tells us, all things are temporary, and enjoy having this space with you guys. Appreciate this time. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
That was a great way to end it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for that little extra special something, Brian. We appreciate you. And we'll see everybody next month.